The signal came without warning. Every television, every phone, every computer screen on Earth flickered at the same moment. It was 3 in the afternoon in Seoul, early morning in New York, and late evening in London. It did not matter where people were. Everyone saw the same thing. Admiral stood in the Seoul Military Command Center when the screens changed. He was a tall man with hair and tired eyes. He had served in the military for 30 years. He thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. The face that appeared on the screen was not human. It was and smooth, with large black eyes and no nose. The mouth was thin and cruel. Behind this face could see a massive room filled with other creatures like it. They wore golden armor and sat on floating chairs. They looked bored and amused at the same time. "Humans of Earth," the creature said. Its voice was cold and flat. "I am Emperor of the Empire. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have watched your species crawl from your caves and reach for the stars. We have decided you are not worthy." Felt his blood turn cold. He knew about the Empire. Humanity had made first contact with aliens 20 years ago. They had learned that the galaxy was full of life and that they controlled most of it. The Empire had ignored Earth until now. Humanity was too small, too weak, too far away to matter. "Your colony on Nova 7 has been judged," Emperor continued. 10 billion humans live there. They have built cities and farms and families. They believe they have a future. The screen changed. It showed a planet from space. Nova 7 was beautiful. It had blue oceans and green continents. It was humanity's largest colony, their greatest achievement, had family there. His sister and her children lived in the capital city. "Watch," the Emperor said, "and learn your place." Massive ships appeared above Nova 7. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their weapons began to glow with terrible light. Then they fired. The beams struck the planet like hammers from an angry god. Cities vanished in seconds. Oceans boiled. Mountains crumbled. The green continents turned black, then red, then white with ash. 10 billion people screamed, but no one could hear them in space. Admiral watched his sister die. He watched her children die. He watched everything humanity had built on that world turn to nothing. The whole thing took less than 10 minutes. The screen returned to Emperor. He was smiling. Around him, the nobles laughed and clapped like they had watched a good show. "Let this be a lesson," the Emperor said. "Humanity serves the Empire or humanity burns. You have 1 year to send your leaders to kneel before my throne. If you do not, we will do to Earth what we did to Nova 7. He leaned closer to the camera. "Do not test us, little creatures. You are nothing." The transmission ended. The screens went dark. For a long moment there was silence. All around the world people stood frozen. They could not believe what they had seen. They could not understand it. 10 billion people dead in minutes. Mothers and fathers and children gone like they never existed. Then the silence broke. In Seoul, Admiral fell to his knees. Tears ran down his face, but his eyes were not sad. They were burning with rage. Around him, soldiers shouted and cried and punched walls. Some fell to the ground. Some ran outside and screamed at the sky. In New York, millions of people poured into the streets. They did not know what to do. They held each other and wept. Then the weeping turned to shouting. Then the shouting turned to chanting. "Never again," they screamed. "Never again." In Beijing, the government went into emergency session. In Moscow, generals called for war. In Berlin, London, Tokyo, and 100 other cities, the same scene played out. Grief became anger. Anger became fury. Fury became something cold and hard and patient. Defense Minister received the news in her office. She was a small woman with kind eyes and steel in her spine. When her assistant told her about Nova 7, she did not cry. She sat very still for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and made one call. "General Minyu," she said, "come to my office, bring everyone." Minyu arrived within the hour. He was a big man with a face and heavy hands. Behind him came the heads of every military branch, every intelligence agency, every weapons program. They filled office like statues. "You all saw it," said. Her voice was quiet, but everyone heard her clearly. "They killed 10 billion of our people. They did it for fun. They did it to make us afraid." She looked at each person in the room. Her eyes were dry, but something terrible burned behind them. "My daughter was on Nova 7, she said. She was 7 years old. She liked to draw pictures of spaceships. She wanted to be an astronaut when she grew up." No one spoke, no one moved. "They think we are weak," continued. "They think we will kneel and beg for mercy. They think humans break easily." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the city. People were in the streets holding candles and crying. "They have made a terrible mistake." General Menu stepped forward. "What are your orders, Minister?" Turn to face him. "Call the United Earth Council. Every nation, every leader, every soldier. Tell them we meet in 1 hour." Her voice hardened. "And tell them to bring their war plans, all of them." That night the leaders of Earth gathered. Old enemies sat together. Countries that had fought for centuries joined hands. There was no argument, no debate, no politics. There was only one question: how do we make them pay? Commander addressed the assembly. She was 32 years old, the youngest fleet admiral in human history. She had lost her parents on Nova 7. When she spoke, her voice was like ice. "They wanted to break us," she said. "They wanted to show the galaxy that humans are weak and foolish. They wanted entertainment." She paused and looked at the hundreds of faces watching her. "They have made the worst mistake in galactic history. They have given humanity a reason to unite. They have given us a common enemy. They have given us purpose." She raised her hand and pointed at the ceiling, at the stars beyond. "In 1 year they expect us to kneel. In 1 year we will come for them instead. We will build ships they cannot imagine. We will train soldiers they cannot defeat. We will bring fire and fury to their doorstep, and we will make them regret the day they touched our people." The room erupted in cheers. For the first time in human history, every nation stood as one. The sleeping giant had awakened, and it was hungry for revenge. Across the galaxy, the Empire celebrated their easy victory. They did not know what was coming. They did not understand what they had done. They had poked a nest of hornets, and the hornets were building their stingers. The factories began working the day after the broadcast. They never stopped. In every country, in every city, the machines roared to life. Steel mills burned day and night. Shipyards expanded until they covered entire coastlines. Mines dug deeper than they had ever dug before. The whole planet became one giant engine of war. Captain stood on the observation deck of Orbital Station 7. Below him, the skeleton of a massive ship was taking shape. Workers moved like ants across its frame, welding and cutting and building. Robots carried supplies from one end to the other. The ship was 3 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built in space. "How long?" asked. The chief engineer, a tired woman named, checked her tablet. 6 months, maybe 5 if we push harder." "Push harder," said. "The Emperor gave us 1 year. We need to be ready in 8 months." Nodded and went back to work. She had not slept in 3 days. None of them had. But no one complained. Everyone remembered Nova 7. Everyone had lost someone or knew someone who had. The ship was called the Retribution. It was humanity's first dreadnought-class warship. When it was finished, it would carry weapons that could crack a planet in half. The thought humans were primitive. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Down on Earth, the training camps filled with volunteers. Sergeant ran one of the largest camps in Korea. Every morning he woke up to find new recruits waiting at the gate. Young people, old people, rich people, poor people. It did not matter. Everyone wanted to fight. "You think you are ready?" shouted at his group. They stood in rows, still wearing their civilian clothes. Some of them looked scared. Some looked angry. All of them looked determined. You think because you are angry you can fight. He walked among them, looking at their faces. He saw students and teachers and farmers and doctors. He saw people who had never held a weapon in their lives. Anger is good, he continued. Anger gives you fuel, but anger alone will get you killed. They've been fighting wars for 10,000 years. They know every trick, every tactic, every strategy. They think we are children playing at war. He stopped in front of a young woman. She had tears in her eyes, but her jaw was set. "What is your name?" he asked. "Sir." "Why are you here?" "My brother was on Nova 7, sir. He was a teacher. He taught little kids how to read." Her voice broke, but she did not look away. "I want to make them pay." Nodded slowly. "Good, hold on to that feeling, but learn to control it. Cold anger is better than hot anger. Cold anger lets you think. Cold anger lets you plan. Cold anger lets you win." He turned to address the whole group. "In 10,000 years of history, humans have never stopped fighting. We fight each other, we fight nature, we fight everything. We are very good at war. Too good, maybe. But now, for the first time, we have a common enemy. An enemy that thinks we are weak. An enemy that killed our families for fun." His voice rose. "I will teach you to be soldiers. I will teach you to shoot and run and hide and kill. But more than that, I will teach you to survive, because dead soldiers cannot take revenge. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir," the recruits shouted. Louder. "Yes, SIR." Allowed himself a small smile. They would do fine. In a secret laboratory beneath the mountains, scientists studied the captured technology. Humanity had collected pieces of alien ships over the years from crashes and trades. Now, every piece was being examined and improved. Held up a small device. It was a shield generator designed to protect ships from weapons fire. The aliens had used this technology for centuries. They thought it was perfect. "They are so arrogant," said to her assistant, a young man named. "This shield is good, but they never tried to make it better. They stopped innovating thousands of years ago." Looked at the schematics on the screen. "Can we improve it?" "We already have," smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Our version is 3 times stronger and uses half the power, and that is just the shield." She walked to another table. On it sat a weapon prototype. It looked like a long tube with glowing rings along its length. "This is what I call the cannon," she explained. "It fires a beam of compressed plasma at speeds the weapons cannot match. Their shields, the original ones, cannot stop it. We tested it yesterday." "What happened?" "The target was a captured warship hull, 5 centimeters of their best armor." Eyes gleamed. "The beam went through it like paper." Stared at the weapon. "They have no idea what we are building." "No," agreed. "They think we are primitives with sticks and stones. They do not know that humans have been perfecting the art of killing for 10,000 years. We have turned murder into a science. And now we have a reason to use everything we have learned." In orbit, Admiral coordinated the growing fleet. Every day, new ships joined the formation. Destroyers, cruisers, frigates, carriers. Some were built in weeks, constructed by armies of workers who refused to rest. Others were converted from cargo ships and passenger liners, their holds filled with weapons instead of goods. Looked at the numbers on his screen. 300 ships ready, 50 more being finished, 12 million soldiers trained and waiting. It was the largest military force in human history, built in less than 6 months. His second-in-command commander stood beside him. "They are watching us," she said. "Their spies have reported our buildup." "Let them watch," replied. "They see numbers, but they do not understand what the numbers mean." "What do they mean?" Turned to look at her. His eyes were hard and cold. "They mean that in 2 months we will not be defending anymore. We will be attacking, and we will not stop until every who helped destroy Nova 7 is dead or in chains." Intelligence officer burst into the room, her face excited. "Admiral, I intercepted new communications from the Empire. You need to hear this." She played the recording. The voice was, but the translation appeared on the screen. "The humans are building ships," the voice said. "Many ships, but they are crude and weak. Our analysts say they pose no threat. The Emperor is not concerned. He believes they are simply putting on a show before they surrender." Laughed, it was not a happy sound. "They still think this is a performance. They still think we will kneel." Nodded, "They are completely underestimating us, sir. Their intelligence reports say our ships are primitive and our weapons are outdated. They have not seen our new technology." "Good, let them stay blind." Walked to the window and looked at the fleet floating in the darkness. "When we strike, I want them surprised. I want them terrified. I want them to feel exactly what we felt when they killed Nova 7. Joined him at the window. "We are ready, Admiral. The soldiers are trained, the ships are armed, the people are united. All we need is your order." Placed his hand on the glass. Beyond it, 300 human warships waited in perfect formation. 12 million soldiers stood ready to fight and die. An entire species had come together for one purpose. "Not yet," he said quietly, "but soon, very soon." On Earth, the factories kept running, the soldiers kept training, the scientists kept inventing, and in every heart the fire of revenge burned brighter than ever. They had wanted humanity to break. Instead, they had forged it into a weapon. That weapon was almost ready. The Empire laughed at humanity. They had spies watching Earth, and those spies sent reports every day. The reports said that humans were building ships and training soldiers. The reports said that humans looked angry and determined. The Emperor and his nobles found this very amusing. "Look at them," Emperor said to his court. He was sitting on his golden throne, surrounded by servants and guards. On the screen before him, images of human ships flickered. "They are like insects building tiny nests. They think they can fight us." A noble named stepped forward. He was one of the Emperor's advisors, old and cautious. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should not dismiss them so quickly. They have built 300 ships in 6 months. That is impressive for any species." Waved his hand dismissively. 300 ships. We have 10,000. Their weapons are primitive. Their soldiers are untrained. When the year ends and they refuse to kneel, we will destroy them as easily as we destroyed their colony." "But your Majesty—" "Enough." The Emperor's voice was sharp. "I have ruled this galaxy for 200 years. I have crushed rebellions from species far more advanced than humans. These creatures are emotional and foolish. They will exhaust themselves with grief and anger, and then they will come crawling to us begging for mercy." Bowed and stepped back. He did not argue further, but worry remained in his eyes. He had studied humans more than the others. He had seen what they could do when they were united. But the Emperor did not want to hear warnings, so kept silent. Far across the galaxy, in a dead star system filled with asteroids, the Shadow Fleet waited. Commander stood on the bridge of the Retribution. The massive ship hummed with power, its new engines and weapons ready for war. Around it, 200 other human vessels floated in the darkness. They had traveled here in secret, hiding in the shadows between stars. "Status report," said. Lieutenant checked his screens. He was her second in command, a calm man with quick eyes. "All ships are in position. Weapons are charged. Soldiers are ready. We are invisible to sensors." Nodded. The Shadow Fleet was humanity's secret weapon. While the main fleet stayed near Earth, visible to spies, this force had slipped away undetected. They had spent weeks traveling through empty space, avoiding all contact with alien ships. "Show me the attack plan again," ordered. A hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed the Empire, its 40 star systems marked in red. Supply lines connected the systems like veins. Communication relays blinked at key points, and at the center sat the throne world, where Emperor waited on his golden chair. "Phase 1 explained. "We hit their supply lines here, here, and here." He pointed to 3 locations. Without supplies, their outer colonies cannot support their fleets. Phase 2, we destroy their communication relays. This will blind them, stop them from coordinating their forces. Phase 3. He pointed at the throne world. We take the head off the snake, finished. How long until we launch? 2 weeks. Our scouts are still mapping their defense positions. Walk to the window. The asteroids floated silently outside, hiding her fleet from enemy eyes. The Emperor thinks we are preparing to surrender. He has no idea we are already at his doorstep. Meanwhile, deep in space, Captain led her strike team through the shadows. Was small and quiet, the kind of person you could forget was in the room. That made her perfect for her job. She commanded the Special Forces unit, 50 of the best soldiers humanity had ever trained. They moved like ghosts, unseen and unheard. Tonight they were on a military station. They had arrived in a stolen shuttle, wearing captured uniforms, speaking the alien language they had spent months learning. They were careless. They did not expect humans to be so clever. "Target ahead," whispered second in command. He pointed to a heavy door at the end of the corridor. "Their main computer core is behind that door." Nodded, she pulled out a small device and placed it against the lock. The device hummed and the door clicked open. They slipped inside. The computer core was a massive room filled with glowing machines. Data flowed through cables like blood through veins. This station controlled communications for an entire sector of the Empire. If they could plant their device here, they could listen to every message. "Work fast," ordered. "We have 5 minutes before the patrol comes back." Her team moved with perfect efficiency. They attached small beacons to the machines, devices so tiny they would never be found. These beacons would send copies of all communications directly to the human fleet. "Done," reported. "All beacons active." "Let's go." They left the same way they came, disappearing into the station's endless corridors. They never knew they had been there. By the time the sun rose on the throne world, his team was already on their way to the next target. Back on Earth, the public face of humanity's response continued. Defense Minister stood before cameras addressing the population. Behind her, banners showed images of Nova 7. Candles burned in memory of the dead, but her eyes were not sad. They were burning with purpose. 8 months ago, the Empire murdered 10 billion of our people, she said. Her voice was steady and strong. They did it to break us. They did it to make us afraid. They expected us to cry and beg and surrender. She paused, letting the silence stretch. They were wrong. The crowd before her was enormous. Millions of people had gathered to hear her speak. They stood in perfect silence, watching and waiting. "We have not broken. We have become stronger. We have not become afraid. We have become angry, and we have not surrendered." Her voice rose. "We have built the largest fleet in galactic history. We have trained the finest soldiers ever known. We have created weapons that will make the Empire tremble." Cheers erupted from the crowd, but raised her hand for silence. They think we are weak because we feel emotions. They think love and grief and anger make us lesser beings, but they do not understand. These feelings are our greatest strength. We fight for our families. We fight for our children. We fight for everyone we have lost and everyone we still have. She pointed at the sky, at the stars beyond. "In 4 months, the Emperor expects us to kneel. Instead, we will bring war to his doorstep. We will show him what happens when you hurt humanity. We will make him pay for every life he has taken." The crowd exploded in cheers. People hugged each other and wept and shouted. The sound echoed across the city and across the world. In orbit, Admiral watched the speech on his screen. The main fleet surrounded Earth like a protective shell, 300 ships armed and ready. But these were not the ships that would strike first. These ships were a distraction, meant to keep eyes focused on the wrong place. "The Shadow Fleet reports ready," said. "Commander is awaiting your order." looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, his sister's ashes floated in the ruins of Nova 7. Somewhere out there, 10 billion voices cried for justice. "Send the order," he said quietly. "Operation Fury begins in 2 weeks. Tell to prepare for launch." Nodded and sent the message. The message traveled through space at the speed of light, bouncing from relay to relay until it reached the asteroid field where the Shadow Fleet waited. Commander read it once, then read it again. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it, only cold determination. "All ships," she announced over the fleet communication channel, "prepare for combat operations. In 2 weeks we take the fight to the enemy. In 2 weeks we begin our revenge." 200 ships lit up their engines in response. 12 million soldiers checked their weapons and said their prayers. The greatest surprise attack in galactic history was about to begin. And the Empire had no idea it was coming. The first outpost fell without warning. It was a supply station on the edge of Empire space, guarded by only 5 warships. There had been told that humans were primitive and weak. They had been told there was nothing to fear. They were eating their evening meal when the alarms began to scream. "What is happening?" the station commander shouted. He ran to the observation deck and looked out the window. Human ships were everywhere. They appeared from nowhere, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Their weapons were already firing before the crews could reach their battle stations. The battle lasted 7 minutes. The human ships moved like predators, working together with deadly precision. They targeted engines first, then weapons, then life support. The 5 warships were destroyed before they could fire a single shot. Commander watched the destruction from the bridge of the Retribution. "Casualties?" she asked. "None on our side," Lieutenant reported. "The station is disabled. Survivors are evacuating to escape pods." "Let them go. I want them to tell others what happened here." His voice was cold but controlled. "Move to the next target." The Shadow Fleet vanished back into faster-than-light travel. They left behind burning wreckage and terrified survivors. The survivors would spread the word. The humans were coming, and they were not weak. The second target was a communication relay. It was bigger than the first station, protected by 20 warships. The commander there had received warnings about the first attack. He thought he was prepared. He was not. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a different pattern this time. Half the ships appeared above the station, half appeared below. They had to split their attention between 2 directions. It was exactly what wanted. "Fire," she ordered. The cannons roared. Beams of white-hot plasma cut through shields like they were not there. Enemy ships exploded one after another, their crews dying before they understood what was happening. The battle lasted 4 minutes. "Relay destroyed," reported. "Enemy communications in this sector are now blind." Allowed herself a small smile. "Good, on to Phase 3. Across the Empire, panic began to spread. Reports came in of human attacks at a dozen locations. Supply lines were cut. Communication relays went dark. Military bases burned. The Empire had never experienced anything like this. On the throne world, Emperor received the news with disbelief. "Impossible," he said. He was packing in his war room surrounded by generals and advisors. "The humans cannot be attacking us. Their fleet is near Earth. Our spies have confirmed this." "Your Majesty," said General, one of his military commanders, "the reports are accurate. We have lost 47 ships in the past 6 hours. 3 supply stations are destroyed. 4 communication relays are offline." "Then where did these attacking ships come from?" "We do not know. Our intelligence has no record of a second human fleet." Slammed his fist on the table. "Find them, send our to hunt them down." "We are trying, Your Majesty, but they move too fast. They strike and disappear before we can respond." In his corner, the old advisor watched silently. He had warned the Emperor. He had told him not to underestimate the humans, but had not listened, and now it was too late. The Shadow Fleet continued its attack, moving from target to target with terrible speed. Each battle was faster than the last as the human crews gained confidence and experience. Each victory weakened the Empire further. Captain led the Retribution's fighter squadrons in one assault after another. His pilots were the best humanity had, trained for months in secret. They flew their ships like extensions of their own bodies, dodging enemy fire and delivering killing blows. "Enemy carrier ahead," reported. "I count 30 fighters defending it." "Can you take them?" asked over the radio. Looked at his squadron. They were tired but determined. They had lost friends on Nova 7. They had come here for revenge. "Watch us," he said. The human fighters charged. They moved in patterns they had never seen, formations developed from 10,000 years of human warfare. The enemy fighters tried to respond but could not keep up. One by one, they fell from the sky. The carrier tried to escape but was faster. He lined up his shot and fired. His missile struck the carrier's engine, and the massive ship exploded in a ball of fire. "Target destroyed," reported. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking, not from fear, from satisfaction. 2 weeks after the first attack, the Shadow Fleet reached the throne world. Emperor stood on his palace balcony looking at the sky. His empire was crumbling. His fleets were scattered. His communications were crippled. And now the enemy was at his door. Human ships appeared in the sky like demons from the darkness. Hundreds of them, more than the Empire's spies had ever reported. They surrounded the planet in a ring of steel and fire. Hal whispered, "How did they do this?" Below, his remaining defenders scrambled to respond. Warships rose from their docks, trying to form a defensive line. Ground batteries powered up, preparing to fire at the invaders. It did not matter. The humans were too strong. The battle for the throne world lasted 3 hours. Human ships carved through the defense fleet like wolves through sheep. The cannons tore through shields and armor. Human soldiers, launched in thousands of drop pods, landed on the planet's surface and began fighting toward the capital. Sergeant led his unit through the streets of the alien city. The buildings were tall and strange, made of materials he did not recognize. Soldiers tried to stop them, but his troops were better trained and more determined. "Keep moving," shouted. "The palace is 2 kilometers ahead." They fought through barricades and ambushes. They lost soldiers, but they kept advancing. Nothing could stop them. They had come too far, sacrificed too much to fail now. In orbit, Commander opened a communication channel. Her face appeared on every screen on the planet, broadcast to every who could see. "Emperor," she said, her voice was ice. 8 months ago, you murdered 10 billion humans. You broadcast their deaths for entertainment. You thought we would kneel. You were wrong." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Today, we return the broadcast. Today, the galaxy watches as your empire falls. Not because we are cruel, but because you left us no choice. You showed us that the only way to survive in this galaxy is to be strong. So we became strong, stronger than you ever imagined." On the planet below, forces reached the palace gates. They blasted through with explosive charges and poured inside. The palace guards fought bravely, but they were overwhelmed. Captain's Special Forces team had arrived ahead of them, infiltrating through secret passages. They had already disabled the palace defenses and captured the throne room. When arrived, he found standing over the Emperor, her weapon pointed at his head. "Don't shoot him," said. "He needs to stand trial." Nodded but did not lower her weapon. "He killed my family. My entire family was on Nova 7. "I know, mine too," put his hand on her shoulder. "But we are not like him. We do not murder for revenge. We deliver justice." Stood still for a long moment. Then slowly she stepped back. Looked up at them with terrified eyes. "You cannot do this. I am the Emperor. I have ruled for 200 years. I You ruled through fear and murder, interrupted. That ends today. He reached down and pulled the Emperor to his feet. Take him to the ship. The galaxy is watching. The cameras captured everything. Across 100 worlds, billions of beings watched as human soldiers dragged the Emperor from his throne. They watched as the human fleet dominated the sky. They watched as an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for 10,000 years collapsed in less than a day. And they understood something important. The humans were no longer prey. They were predators, and anyone who hurt them would face the same fate as Emperor. The reckoning had come, and it was only the beginning. The galaxy watched in silence as the empire fell apart. It took only 72 hours for humanity to dismantle what had taken the 10,000 years to build. System after system surrendered. Fleets abandoned their positions. Governors fled their posts. The great empire, which had ruled through fear and cruelty, crumbled like a house made of sand. Admiral arrived at the throne world 3 days after its capture. He walked through the ruined capital, stepping over debris and burned wreckage. Around him, human soldiers patrolled the streets, keeping order. Civilians watched from their windows, waiting to see what would happen next. Admiral, Commander said, walking beside him. The last enemy fleet has surrendered. All 40 systems are under our control. The war is over. Nodded slowly. He had dreamed of this moment for months. He had imagined standing in the enemy's capital, victorious and proud. But now that he was here, he felt only tired. How many did we lose? He asked. 23,000 soldiers, 41 ships. Paused. It is a small number considering what we achieved. Every number is someone's child, someone's parent, someone's friend. Looked at the sky. Somewhere up there, the ruins of Nova 7 still floated in space. 10 billion graves with no bodies. We won, but the cost was too high. Did not argue. She had lost her parents on Nova 7. She understood. The trial of Emperor was held on a space station between Earth and the throne world. Representatives from dozens of species attended. Some were former subjects of the Empire. Others were neutral observers who had never dared to challenge power. All of them wanted to see how humanity would handle their defeated enemy. Defense Minister led the prosecution. She stood before the court, calm and controlled, and presented the evidence. Images of Nova 7 burning, recordings of the Emperor's broadcast, testimony from survivors who had escaped the massacre. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Emperor said, addressing the accused, "You ordered the deaths of 10 billion innocent people. You broadcast their murder for entertainment. You did this not because they threatened you, not because they harmed you, but because you wanted to show your power." Sat in chains, looking small and weak without his throne. He tried to speak to defend himself, but the words would not come. "You expected humanity to break," continued. "You expected us to kneel and beg for mercy. Instead, you united us. You gave us a common purpose. You forged us into the weapon that destroyed your empire." She stepped closer to him, her eyes burning with cold fire. "My daughter was 7 years old. She lived on Nova 7. She liked to draw pictures and dream about the stars. You killed her without even knowing her name. You killed 10 billion people without knowing any of their names." The court was silent. Everyone watched and waited. "The punishment for your crimes is clear," said, "but humanity does not believe in revenge. We believe in justice, and justice means you will live with what you have done." The sentence was announced the next day. Emperor was to be exiled to a barren moon on the edge of known space. He would live there alone, in a small cell, for the rest of his natural life. On the walls of his cell, the names of all 10 billion victims would scroll endlessly, day and night, forever. Death would have been mercy. This was something worse. "Let him spend eternity reading what he destroyed," said when the sentence was announced. "Let him know every name, every face, every life he ended. That is true justice." was taken away, screaming and begging for death. No one listened to him anymore. With the empire defeated and its leader sentenced, humanity faced a new challenge: what to do with victory. Admiral called a meeting of all senior commanders. They gathered in the war room of the Retribution, the same ship that had led the attack on the throne world. Around the table sat, and a dozen others, the people who had won the war. "We have two choices," said. "We can become what they were. We can rule this galaxy through fear and force, crushing anyone who opposes us, or we can try something different." "The kept peace through terror," said. "It worked for 10,000 years." "And it created us," replied. "It created an enemy willing to burn everything to stop them. Fear works until someone is more afraid of dying on their knees than dying on their feet." Nodded. "Exactly. We have a chance to build something better, not an empire but an alliance, a partnership of species working together for common goals." "Can it work?" asked. "These species have been oppressed for centuries. They may hate us simply because we are the new power." "Then we prove we are different," stood and looked out the window at the stars. "We help them rebuild. We share our technology. We protect the weak instead of crushing them. We earn their trust." "And if someone attacks us?" asked. Turned back to face them. His eyes were hard. "Then we remind them what happened to the last empire that tried." The decision was made. Humanity would not rule, they would protect. The newly formed Galactic Alliance began its work. Human ships, once built for war, now carried food and medicine to worlds that had been stripped bare by the. Human engineers helped rebuild cities. Human teachers opened schools. Scientists' technology was shared freely, lifting dozens of species out of poverty. Commander's fleet became the Galactic Peacekeepers. They patrolled the space lanes, stopping pirates and slavers and anyone who tried to hurt the weak. For the first time in 10,000 years, small ships could travel safely without paying tribute to a tyrant. The changes were slow at first. Many species did not trust humans. They had seen what humanity could do in war, and they were afraid the humans would become another empire. But month after month, year after year, humanity proved them wrong. On the anniversary of Nova 7, a memorial station was completed. It orbited the ruins of the dead world, a testament to what had been lost. The station was made of white stone and glass, beautiful and sad. Inside, the names of all 10 billion victims were carved into the walls. Captain visited the memorial alone. She walked through the silent halls, reading names she did not know. Somewhere on these walls were her parents, her brothers, her childhood friends. Somewhere here was everyone she had loved. She stopped in front of a section of wall and reached out to touch a name. Her mother's name. "I avenged you," she whispered. "I hope that is enough." She stood there for a long time, letting the tears fall. Then she wiped her eyes, straightened her uniform, and walked back to her ship. There was still work to do. There would always be work to do. Defense Minister gave the final speech of the anniversary ceremony. She stood before cameras that broadcast to every world in the Alliance, human and alien alike. "1 year ago today, the Empire tried to break humanity," she said. "They killed 10 billion of our people. They thought we would surrender. They were wrong." She paused, looking at the faces watching her. So many faces, so many species, all united under a new banner. "We did not fight because we wanted power. We fought because we had no choice. And when we won, we had another choice: become the monsters who hurt us or become something better." Her voice softened. "We chose to be better. The Galactic Alliance is not perfect. We make mistakes. We disagree. We struggle. But we try. We try to build a galaxy where no child has to fear being murdered for entertainment. We try to build a galaxy where strength protects the weak instead of crushing them." She raised her hand toward the stars. "The Empire ruled through fear for 10,000 years. The Galactic Alliance will lead through hope. And if anyone threatens that hope, if anyone tries to destroy what we are building, they will learn what humanity learned: Some species are better left alone. Her voice rang out across the galaxy, a warning and a promise. Remember Nova 7. Remember what we lost. Remember what we built from the ashes. And never forget, humanity does not break. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity remembers. The galaxy listened, and the galaxy understood. A new era had begun. Not an era of empires and conquests, but an era of partnership and hope. It would face challenges. It would face enemies, but it would endure. Because humanity had taught the galaxy a simple lesson. The stars are dangerous, the universe is cruel, but those who stand together can survive anything. Even the fall of empires, even the death of worlds, even grief beyond measure. Together they could survive, together they could thrive. And together they would reach for the stars.